Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, January 14th, and we're reconvening at 7:52. And I'd like to thank the people who've been waiting patiently. Thank you for your time. We had some technical difficulties, and then there was also a lot of work to do in the in-camera session, so we appreciate your patience. The first item is public comments. I don't believe we have anyone scheduled tonight. So just a reminder, if you do have anything you'd like to contribute, this is your time to let council know your thoughts. Comments will not be taken from the gallery after this portion of the meeting concludes. We welcome your comments, but there is no debating during this section of the agenda. If you do wish to speak, please raise your hand and I'll call you to the microphone. And also please clearly state and spell your name for the record. Each member of the public will be given 5 minutes to speak to an item on today's agenda, and we ask that you be succinct with presenting new information. And if you are speaking, a bell will ring at the 4-minute mark, giving you 1 minute to conclude. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on an item on the agenda that's separate to what you're doing tonight? Seeing none, we can move on to item 5, delegations. 5.1. 2025-2026 RCMP Quarter 1 and Quarter 2 Municipal Policing Report. And we'd like to welcome Staff Sergeant Wilgoss tonight. Nice to see you again. Happy New Year.
Yes, to you as well, Your Worship. Thank you for affording me the opportunity to present an update on our policing priorities and activities within Strathmore. All of my comments will be made through the CAO to the Chair and the rest of Council for the duration of my presentation here for you this evening. As you see, this report covers Quarter 1 and Quarter 2, which is based on our fiscal year of April 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2025. It's been some time since I've been before Council. We have some new faces in the room, so I'll take maybe just a bit of time to talk about the report and what's included in it and what it is that you're looking at to help with a bit more of an enhanced understanding as far as what we're reporting on. Our policing priorities were established with the last council, the beginning of the fiscal year, with respect to what our focus and priorities would be with respect to crime prevention and reduction activities within the town of Strathmore. Our 3 priorities are laid out in this report, the first being the reduction of property crimes, the second being road safety, and third being community engagement. For our first priority, our targeted goal was to seek, or at least maintain our 6-year historical averages in select crime groups. And of course, we're always looking to seek to find improvements and reduce crime as much as we can. Our target was and is a 5% reduction in the selected crime groups, which is theft of vehicles, theft from motor vehicles, and break-and-enters. We achieve these measures and goals through a number of activities that we have laid out before you within the community. So just a bit of a side note, even though we selected these 3 areas as points of strategic focus, that being the most impactful to our community and where we're going to see the most gains with respect to public safety, that does not rule out other areas or forms of crime that we may be noticing throughout the year. And in fact, if we do notice a certain crime trend that may be emerging, we can also modify our priorities and add them to what it is that we're looking at. But what you see before you is our strategic focus to have essentially the most bang for the buck when it comes to community safety and reducing crime and maintaining the safety of our community. Our first program that we've seen much success out of over the past 4 years in my tenure here is our habitual offender management program. These are people that we know of in our community that have certainly had a negative impact on communities through the volumes of crimes that they commit, the seriousness of crimes they commit, their likelihood of reoffending, and their general impact on the community as a whole. During Quarter 1 and Quarter 2, we were monitoring 15 habitual offenders, some of them residing in the town of Strathmore proper. Compliance checks during Quarters 1 and Quarter 2, we did not find any of those subjects to be out of compliance, so we're happy that they're minding their P's and Q's and maintaining a law-abiding lifestyle in our community. Our Persons of Interest program includes those who may not be bound by court-ordered conditions or perhaps arise to the level that may be included in our habitual offender management program, but certainly people that have demonstrated in the past that have had tendencies not to live a law-abiding lifestyle, and we do maintain contact with them from time to time and to ensure that we're helping them again, maintain a law-abiding lifestyle program. We have a security screw program, as you'll see here, at various locations within Strathmore, that being all of the dealerships as well as the fire hall, our Langdon office, and the detachment. We found that theft from motor vehicles was largely perpetrated by license plate theft. Now, it may not seem to be on its surface something that's impactful. However, there are a lot of reasons why license plates are targeted. We find that auto theft criminals will often find another vehicle that's of similar make and model that hasn't been reported stolen, and they'll swap the plates off of those vehicles. As you'd imagine, I'm sure everyone who's tried to change a plate or renew their insurance or sell a car and you're trying to shift over registration, how, I guess on the minuscule side of things, how tedious that can be. But it's also disruptive to clients when either they've been pulled over by the police because the plate on their car is stolen, or you receive a phone call in the middle of the night asking if you know where your license plate is. But more seriously, or more towards the area of community safety, when policemen are pulling over vehicles and if they don't know that they're stolen, that is a very high-risk situation. Secondly, with these license plates, if it goes a long time before it's detected, there's a lot of crime that can be committed in a stolen vehicle that goes undetected if these offenders are using stolen license plates. So free of charge to the community, we have security screws that can be installed on your car. You need a special tool to remove it. It has been impactful with preventing license plate theft. In fact, some of the dealerships have started their own similar programs and have purchased their own security screws for license plates on all newly purchased cars. So it's been something that's very helpful. We also offer crime prevention through environmental design sessions with people who want them upon request. Certainly if our members are responding to property crimes, they will offer some pointers. Again, it's unfortunate that hindsight might be 20/20. However, we do offer, I guess, as many tips and tricks and advices that we can to help prevent a person from becoming a victim of crime again. What you'll see before you is a graphic here. And what you're looking at here is, through the red line, is our historical highs over the past 6 years, the bottom line representing our historical lows. And as you'll see through Q1 and Q2 with the green bar graph, that's where we're at in each of those quarters. So what we're demonstrating is, at times we will have fluctuations in crime rates and through specific quarters, or if we have a certain crime series that's trending at a certain period of time, there'll be some highs and lows. But what we're trying to demonstrate not only to council and to the community at large is we're in the range of what's normal that we've observed in our crime reporting in Strathmore. Now, obviously, I don't favor any level of crime, and of course we want to make sure we're minimizing as much as possible. And as you can see in the area of break-and enters, that we're meeting and exceeding our goals this year with the targets that we've set. But again, it's just more for the community awareness as what we're doing and how we're doing it and how well we're doing. Moving on, you'll see the theft of motor vehicle trending high. It's not at our highest levels, but we'll get into a little bit more details around what we're seeing in theft, auto theft tendencies. Theft from motor vehicles, we're well below our targeted measures and certainly below our historical lows. What you'll see in the representation here is our Q1, Q2, our fiscal year to date. So the first column you'll see compared to the same time frames last year, and as well as in comparison to what our 6-year averages are. Again, how are we trending and how are we doing in relation to what we saw last year and what our goals are this year? I've given some details as far as the break-and enters in our community and some details around what that looked like, if we can move to the next page, as well as theft of motor vehicles. So in the trending high area with theft of motor vehicles, we've recovered 68% of those vehicles. We do find that quite often we'll have habitual offenders that enter our area with a stolen vehicle. They'll steal another vehicle, largely as a crime of opportunity, that being a vehicle parked, running with the keys in it and the doors unlocked, stopping off at a gas station just to run in just for a second, maybe to buy a coffee or a snack, and then coming out to find that the vehicle's gone. That's typically what we're seeing when the vehicles are stolen, and the vast majority of the offenders involved don't even live in our area. Quite often they're area habitual offenders that travel around the Calgary hub and really do have a large impact, not only in our surrounding detachments around Calgary, but within Calgary as well. One person in particular, so even just one offender, and I'll give you a little bit of details. This one offender was charged 7 times in the Strathmore detachment area, 4 times in stolen vehicles. And in one of those occasions, we caught them in a bait vehicle that we left out. Essentially, it's a vehicle that's left out there as a crime of opportunity to see if someone tries to steal it. Well, in this case, this person did. So of those 7 times, and this is just this fiscal year alone, so I'm not going back to the beginning of this person's criminal history. I can tell you this person also had 43 negative dealings in RCMP detachment areas this fiscal year alone, so starting from April 1st till now. And that gives you an idea of what we're looking at when we talk about habitual offenders, repeat offenders that do come to our community and commit crime. This person, because they don't live in our area, we're very well of who they are. We've dealt with them quite often, as my colleague behind me would likely attest if I whispered in his ear who I'm talking about. But it is I guess, the nature of the business being a community closer to Calgary. So in this case, again, there were on 4 of the 7 occasions that we charged this person with criminal offenses, 4 of those occasions were in stolen vehicles. Effort is ongoing. Our second priority is with respect to traffic safety. So we were looking again to make sure we're maintaining our 6-year historical averages that with respect to overall reportable collisions and injury collisions as well. So that's how we're measuring road safety. If we have fewer collisions, then perhaps our roads are a little safer, especially if we're able to minimize injury. It's something difficult. It's a challenge. We try to educate the public as much as possible. We have check stops, of which, Q1 and Q2, there were 4. They did result in a couple of violations and an IRS sanction, which is an immediate roadside sanction through the provincial suspension program, and 230 vehicles were checked. Our members conduct a number of bar walks through our licensed establishments, and that's really just to remind people that perhaps, plan ahead and make sure that they have a safe ride home. We're not there to bust people or have an aha, gotcha moment. It's more a matter of making sure that everyone can have a good time, enjoy the services that Strathmore has to offer, and of course, to make sure that they arrive home safe. You'll notice in Strathmore here, we're a little challenged when it comes to reportable collisions. Overall, we're trending close to where we're trying to target, but injury collisions has been trending higher than our historical average. Now, when we're looking at numbers of 4 in Q1 and 7 in Q2, those are still quite low, relatively low numbers. But again, we want to make sure that we're not allowing our road safety to slide in any way, shape, or means. So I'm not minimizing the fact that 7 is a low number. That's 7 instances where somebody was injured. We want to make sure we're doing all we can to help bring that down. I've given you some breakdowns as far as some graphics on what our contributing causes are, and in short, our injury collisions, most of them occur in intersections. So about 67% of our collisions occur. A lot of our collisions are occurring mostly in intersections, as well as rear end type collisions. So, 67% of what we're seeing there is largely attributed to driver inattentiveness. So proceeding through intersections when unsafe, proceeding through stale yellow lights perhaps, turning when unsafe, or when people don't have the right of way, and certainly rear end collisions do have an element of lack of attentiveness as well. That's something that we're going to be looking at challenging and working towards bringing these numbers back within the range where we'd like to see them. And of course, we do work very closely with our community peace officer counterparts to that end. Our third priority, that is with community engagement and Indigenous community engagement. We achieve that through attending community events. Really what we want to do is be present where people are at. We're members of the community ourselves, and we need to be accessible to the public. And of course, we can't better learn how to serve the public unless we're interacting with the public and talking to them about what their concerns are. We do spend a lot of time in our schools as much as possible, and again, interacting with our youth is something that is a priority for us as well. This year we held our 2nd year of our annual coloring contest, which is what did the police do in your community? We did have, and you'll see there's a photo there, that's actually posted in the lobby of our detachment, and it'll stay there until we have next year's or this year's contest. But we did have winners, 1st and 2nd place, with a K to 3, and as well as the grades 4 to 6 category. Each winner got a specialized certificate from myself as the detachment commander, as well as a large stuffed Mountie moose or a Mountie bear. And the kids were pretty excited about the awards there. But as you can see, we try to be as involved as we can in community events. That includes presence during celebrations, Canada Day. Our members offer workshops. As you'll see here, a presentation was made to a group of youth New Canadians as far as the legal system in Canada. For those of us who were all at the Stampede this year, we were fortunate to have the musical ride in town that participated not only in the Stampede, but also in our parade. And we do have some fans in town. So Corporal Kuhn and Constable Kim, while they're on regular patrol, happened to come across a birthday party where there's some policing fans. So I guess they were the stars of the show. They stopped by for some pictures. And I think if I know Corporal Kuhn there, he's partial to sweets, so I'm sure he had a slice of cake if he had an opportunity. And lastly, you see on the last page there, an example where we have our members giving anti-fraud presentations to our seniors to help protect them from becoming victims of crime. We also have other initiatives there that we have on the go. I include this in all of our reports just to make sure that the public is aware of them. I think the most impactful is probably the Alberta RCMP app. It's a one-stop shop for everything Alberta RCMP that you want to know. And one program I would like to draw attention to, and again, I'm thankful for Council's decision to continue to support a multi-year agreement with our Watch Clerk program. Really briefly put, our Watch Clerks are administrative staff that take on a lot of the paperwork that keeps our police officers off the road and bound to their desks. It really maximizes their capacity and their ability to be in the community to do what we want them to do, and that's to prevent, detect, and deter crime. And Council, who has been here, since the last council, and for our new councillors, I've spent time talking about the program. I thought I'd bring one of our clerks along to introduce her. That it is real. They are filled with people, and they are very, very helpful and impactful for how we deliver a community safety program. So to my right, Alyssa Klotz, she's one of our watch clerks. She's been in the program for 3 years, and we are very fortunate to have her providing that frontline operational support. I told her I wouldn't put her on the spot too much, but if you have questions of her, you're certainly allowed to ask some questions. And I've also brought along Constable Will Sockett. He's one of our longtime members here. He arrived just shortly before I did. He's one of our, he's a resident here in Strathmore. He has a child in school here in Strathmore as well. And again, he's a good example of one of our community-based members who are part of our community. Lastly, I've given you a breakdown of our last year and this year's calls for service. I won't spend too much time on that. I'm sure there's a busy agenda. That concludes the Q1 and Q2 report. I do have, or I'm able to answer any questions that council may have.
Questions from councillors? I have Councillor Brown, then Councillor Wegener.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank you for your service and what the RCMP does in town, and I'm very grateful for your presentation, also your community involvement. I think the kids and the schools really enjoy when you guys come in and do your thing, and the musical ride was quite impressive this year. I did see it myself. I do have a question though around the collisions and the fatalities, and so it was mentioned in the report that there was one fatality at the intersection of 817 and Highway 1. I read the report earlier this evening, and I didn't see any specific intersection that would be the worst. I would have to guess it would be that intersection, but is there any sort of quantifiable evidence of, let's say, the top two most dangerous intersections in Strathmore that we could perhaps look at focusing some safety or some safety measures on, and what sort of improvements do you think you might recommend or might suggest? That's my question.
And certainly that's something that our ongoing discussions with administration as far as what things we can do. I can provide the locations of where these collisions occurred. I just don't have them in front of me now, but I can tell you from my observation, having been personally in attendance to that fatality collision that happened at the intersection of Highway 1 and 817 just this past summer, the collisions that occur at that intersection are certainly very impactful because you have a secondary highway intersecting with a major highway. And there are some minor tweaks to that intersection that could possibly be made. In fact, we were just discussing that outside with our fire department partners. Something as simple as any of the traffic in the turning lane heading south on 817, after they advance the green arrow, if it simply becomes a solid red and the traffic has to wait till the next go around, that would probably make a big difference in that intersection. But otherwise, as far as labeling a most dangerous intersection, like sometimes the numbers can fluctuate, but I can tell you really it's all about driver attentiveness, paying attention to the road, making sure that adequate stop times are available. But also, if you can't see through the intersection, don't decide to go. you know, even if the yellow light turns on and people are getting worried about clearing the intersection, it's better to wait and clear it after the traffic is stopped than proceeding when it's safe to do so. So the difficulty we have having the Trans-Canada Highway running through Strathmore is, yes, we can roll out any number of enforcement programs, and unless it's far-reaching and wide-reaching that everyone who travels that highway hears of it, you know, we're going to be reaching our residents and our locals who certainly know that they need to be paying attention at these intersections, and that regular commuter traffic is familiar, you know, with our enforcement activities, but we've got a lot of traffic coming through on Highway 1, and it's only increasing based on the development and the growth that we see in the area. So I guess more to directly answer your question, I can work with administration to provide some more information with regard to that, and certainly at future attendances to council, if that's something you want to see in our reporting, then I can include it.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Wegener.
Again, thank you for everything. It's kind of along the same lines. I've been getting some calls from some residents, especially on Highway 1 going west at the last set of lights, Highway East at the last set of lights, especially with the larger trucks blowing through those, the red lights. Is there any, again, kind of specialized enforcement or anything that you guys are looking at for that? Or have you been made aware of some of those issues with those traffic lights?
Yes, Councillor, we do have concerns that are expressed with the lights coming through Strathmore, certainly being on a major highway with as much commercial traffic that travels through. Our members do conduct enforcement along Highway 1 there as much as they're available to do. There are options of implementing enhanced targeted shifts, which would be, you know, which would come at some cost, but some of that does get recovered through any fine revenue that's issued. We invite and work closely with our peace officers here in town to maximize and align our efforts with regard to road safety efforts. And there have been times where I've invited the Alberta Sheriffs in as well to spend a little bit of time on that corridor there. As much presence as we want to have there, it's unfortunate at times that we can't be there all the time. And it always seems to be that anecdotal comment that, well, why aren't the police around when this is happening, right? It's the one time that, or the multiple times that these things happen and our members are otherwise engaged or working in other parts of our area. We are working to ensure that we're maximizing safety along that corridor. It is a message that's repeated with respect to road safety and what we need from our members to be out and present on that roadway. We'll be looking at perhaps other options to see what we can do to maximize the safety along that corridor.
Any other questions from councillors? The only question I had about that intersection, or those intersections, especially the west one, because I had a couple of residents call me as well. Is there any kind of I know we're not allowed to do speed radar on many of the roads now. Is there such a thing as a camera that would flash if someone runs a red light? Can they be ticketed that way?
There is a possibility of exploring the options of a red light camera. It's becoming increasingly difficult to work with, to have these projects approved. It's a matter of it's an evidence-based approach to demonstrate that these intersections are dangerous, but there is a lot of details to be hammered out, and I think that's best with administration perhaps to pursue as far as what kind of investment that I guess council wants to invest in some of this technology and options, and then also as far as who's responsible for the cost of those items being a major highway. So I think that's something that could be explored with administration. We even often talked about having Constable Scarecrow, which is a cutout of a policeman with a radar gun there to hopefully that might curb some of the traffic. In fact, it's a funny topic. One of our members who's posted here, he was posted in the Lower Mainland, and he's actually the model for Constable Scarecrow down there. So maybe we can dust off one of the old ones and put it there. But I think it's really trying to be as present as possible is certainly helpful. But again, there are times, especially late at night, I've heard as well that early morning hours, 2, 4, 5 in the morning, that of course, if there's not a lot of traffic out, quite often those lights are run. It's just a matter of being there at the right time. But of course, you're right, we can explore other options. It's just a matter of what's feasible and what's not.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Chisholm and then Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for what you guys do, and do know that it's very much valued and appreciated. The report is very detailed, and thank you for that. I guess my question's around what, if you could pick out one thing, you're doing a lot of good things. What's one thing that is working really well? And then what is the second part of that question is, what's one thing that we could enhance in the second half of this reporting year?
I think the ability for our officers to be present in the community, that's largely enhanced with our Watch Click program. And I'm thankful for the enhancement that council has provided to that program as well. Its ability to have our members well placed, so that way they can better prevent, detect, and deter crime. So they're in the right places at the right time. And if they're out there at the right place, right time, they'll see things, they'll catch things. And even if it doesn't end in an arrest or apprehension, that at least we're deterring people from coming into our area, and that's a message that we want to send. Early on, when I first arrived here, we implemented the habitual offender management program. So we generated a list of people who are most negatively impactful to our communities, and we were very active in explaining to them that we're going to continue to check on your conditions until you start maintaining a law-abiding lifestyle, and by the way, tell all of your friends that this is a safe community, and if you come here to do harm, then we'll catch you. So we try to emphasize that program and to be proactive and to be in the areas where crime is being committed at the right times. Part of that comes down to crime trend analysis, and we have analysts that work at our Southern Alberta District Office that do help us with some of these crime trends. Enhancements, we need to know what's going on out there, because typically speaking, only 30% of crime is ever reported to the police, and we want to make sure that we're getting these reports. Now, again, it may make our numbers look a little skewed or a little bit higher than what we're anticipating, but you know what, in the short term, if we get a true and real picture of what crime is being committed out there and when it's happening and where it's happening, then we can better strategically focus our efforts to ensure we're dealing with what's really, truly impacting our community. So that includes a lot of times people don't want to report crimes because they think there's nothing we can do or it's not important enough. We do have useful tools to help make reporting crime easier. There's online crime reporting that you can do, whether it's through the online reporting app that you can access through the Alberta RCMP app. It's easy enough to report this stuff. It may not be something that we can do anything about now, but it does help inform how we guide our policing activities. So hearing from the public and knowing what's going on in our community, that's where we need the public's help to help us do our jobs too. If we're looking at the town of Strathmore with roughly 15,000 residents or so, well, that's 15,000 sets of eyes that I would say is a pretty good surveillance system.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Staff Sergeant Wilgosh. I just want to bring it back to that Highway 1 and Highway 817 intersection. My apologies, I didn't hear the details on what you were saying about the left-hand turn signal, but either way, is there something that council can do in supporting you in making that change?
I think working through administration, that's something that could be achieved. And again, I will defer somewhat to the expertise of our fire chief here as well. He made some, if I'm not misquoting, he made some initial inquiries as far as some changes that could be made. I think that's something that we could move forward on with certainly with the help of administration to make some changes.
That sounds great. Certainly let council know if there's any way we can support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I got a second round, sorry. So again, a lot of what has been discussed here is the break and enters and stealing of license plates and traffic violations. I was just wondering, given the state of sort of the economy, people are struggling. There's probably a little bit more substance abuse that happens when people are poor and they're not doing so well. I wanted to know if you had any statistics regarding potential domestic issues that may have occurred, and is there an uptick on that, or did I miss that in the report? I just want to, just asking the question because I just want to make sure that our community is protected fully, right? Not just for traffic violations. And I know you guys are doing that. I just didn't see that in your report.
We do have reporting that you can find through the Alberta RCMP app, but I do provide it to our municipalities on a monthly basis. I can tell you that for calendar year 2025, we do capture scoring on spousal abuse type of occurrences. And I can tell you that the difference between 2024 and 2025, there was a 6% increase in that 1 year. However, when we look at the 5 years of criminal data reporting, there was a 0% year-over-year change. So I would say that's negligible when we talk about spousal assaults and abuse.
Right.
As persons crimes, yes, they can escalate at times when times are good and their money is aplenty, and when times are tough, when money is not. With respect to our persons crimes, they're not random. They're not crimes of opportunity. These are people. These are incidences that don't really have a trend that we can deal with. It's a matter of people that are known to each other and end up in dispute. So that's what I'm seeing with those crime trends when we take a look at those throughout the year. But again, those are always ever changing, and that's what we want to do. Is it's by the time you receive your criminal statistics, it's too late. The stuff is already, things have already happened, and that's where we do really rely on the public's assistance to report a lot of the matters that we're facing.
Of course. Okay, thank you. And what about, follow-up question on that, what about narcotics or any sort of crimes like that in there? Again, didn't see that in your report, which I'd read earlier this evening.
So with respect to our drug enforcement for calendar year 2025, possession and trafficking offenses, respectively, there was a change between 2024 to 2025 calendar years by 75% and 27%, respectively. So that's instances where, with our general investigation section, there was some proactive effort going on with respect to seizing drugs and vehicles, interdiction work when our members are encountering subjects passing through our area. And we did have a targeted drug trafficking investigation in this past year that yielded three suspects that we arrested that were active in our community. And those are persons that we still remain active with monitoring our habitual offender management program. So when we see upticks, sometimes it's not a matter of that there's drugs that's more prevalent. Sometimes it's as a result of the proactive efforts of our members. As far as drugs in our community, well, it's here. As far as the impact, well, we're not different than many other communities, but I can tell you that Strathmore, at least in that regard, is very safe.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. If there was something that could, so it sounds like there's been a fairly sizable uptick, right, from what I'm hearing. So is there something that residents could do to sort of lessen this, be vigilant, look for what things to look for, how to report it? Is there sort of any advice that you can offer? You're at the mic, so now's your chance to sort of say what needs to be said.
So sure, maybe I should, quantify with respect to drug possession from 75%. So in the town of Strathmore, we're looking at 4 instances that rose to 7. So I guess just to quantify what that increase is, sometimes when you're dealing with, the smaller numbers, it may appear to be shockingly high. And as far as the drug trafficking instances are concerned, we went from 11 instances to 14. So that accounts for the increase. But again, that was a proactive measure that our members were proactively investigating and dealt with. Now, more directly to your question, what can the public do? Well, if you see suspicious or drug dealing activity, report it to us. Obviously it's more advantageous to have a person's name on a statement when we're proceeding with an investigation. However, if a person wants to remain anonymous, Crime Stoppers is also another avenue to at least draw our attention to a specific place or a residence that may be active, and we can implement other investigative techniques to do what we can to mitigate that.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any other questions? Thank you, Staff Sergeant, and your staff for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate the report. Very clear, again, as always, to follow. And we appreciate your willingness and ability to answer questions. Thank you, and it was very nice meeting you, too.
Thank you, Worship.
All right, we move now to item 6, confirmation of minutes. 6.1, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for June 11th, 2025. Looking for a motion? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that council adopt the June 11th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented in attachment 1.
Thank you. Are there any discussion or comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. We move now to item 7, business. 7.1, off-site levies for soft services. And Mr. Dugdale, you are presenting tonight?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the report on off-site levies for soft services as directed by Council on December 10th, 2025. The report's for information and to seek Council's direction on next steps. Soft levies, or we call them, are a tool to ensure that new development continues to support the capital costs of essential community infrastructure such as fire halls, police stations, recreation facilities, and libraries. In terms of strategic alignment, implementing soft levies in the town of Strathmore would support several of Council's strategic priorities such as affordable living, community development and wellness, and financial sustainability. The approach helps maintain predictable tax rates, builds financial reserves, and supports sustainable growth. Soft levies allocate funding more efficiently, reducing the financial burden on existing residents and businesses for those facilities. They promote equitable access to those community amenities. In terms of environmental benefits, while primarily financial and social, any new facility planning will, of course, consider any environmental sustainability of those projects and facilities. Strathmore currently has an off-site levy bylaw for hard services such as roads, water pipes, and sanitary sewer pipes. Recent changes to the Act now allow municipalities to charge off-site levies for soft services or the facility, as I mentioned earlier. Several municipalities have implemented those soft levies. These include Edmonton, Calgary, Chestermere, Cochrane, and High River. The goal, of course, is to share the capital costs of these facilities that are triggered by growth in a transparent and predictable way, reducing pressure on general taxation. Some key issues for Council to consider is, one, the identification of eligible facilities such as a fire hall, a police station, recreation center, or a library that need funding. Calculating the methodology for levies and appropriate costing. An important one is stakeholder engagement with the development community, residents, as well as regional partners as needed. Drafting of the bylaw amendments if we choose to go this direction. And finally, a communication and education strategy about those new soft levies. In terms of next steps, if Council supports moving forward, staff will develop the required policies and bylaws. We'll prepare an implementation plan that'll include extensive stakeholder engagement and costing with the facilities included. And we'll bring a subsequent report to Council for further consideration. Tonight, we're just seeking broad Council direction on the next steps for these soft services consideration. And I'm happy to answer any questions or provide further details from the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dugdale, just a question maybe for the public at home who are watching, and I have some confusion at times. Is it strictly for new development? Do the older developments that are still finishing up, do they face this kind of a thing as well?
Through the chair, there is an ability to do redevelopment levies, but I don't think we would look at that in the Strathmore context. It's mainly for new development.
Thank you. Question for our CAO. I think you and I have had discussions in the past about this. Is there any concern that there's going to be a change concerning soft levies from the provincial government in the near future?
There has been, I guess, some discussion. There's, we haven't seen any draft regulations, or there's, nothing has been put forth by the province at this point.
Thank you. I'll go now to Councillor Brown.
Okay, thank you. There are lots of ways to pay for capital projects. One is we could, go into, well, we shouldn't go into reserves, but we can generally put the money up front and tax people on that year, or we could borrow the money ahead of time, and that has some benefits in that, as these things or communities are getting developed, we can pay, or these can be paid for by the residents that move into those communities later on, provided they come in a reasonable time frame. or we can impose levies. And I'm just putting this out just so the public knows what that means. And so levies are basically saying that the developer that's coming in is going to pay a certain dollar amount to kind of put in the things, the infrastructure pieces that are needed to make that community happen, as you suggested, the fire halls, the schools, those sorts of things. And so there is a benefit to it in that the cost of it does sort of get downloaded onto the people that are moving into those new communities, so they are paying for their own, or a portion, or a good portion, hopefully, of their own infrastructure. But there's also the negative aspect, which is if we over levy, then we deter people from developing into the town. And so I guess the question I wanted to ask was, how are we going to find the sweet spot that gets us the revenue that we need to pay for this infrastructure versus sort of getting the money we need to develop the infrastructure? And so I was just wondering what your approach might be, or if you could bring that back to the next council meeting when you make your recommendations.
Through the chair, I can attempt to answer part of that question, and perhaps CEO Scoble can add something as well. We're aware of, generally aware of the developers. They have to be engaged. They're a big stakeholder in this process. We're also aware of kind of where Strathmore currently sits in terms of what our offsite levies are in comparison with some of the other communities I mentioned. So we'll have to consider that, but we'll also have to consider, I mentioned the 4 facilities you could use those soft levies to fund. We can choose any or all of those that will mitigate and manage what that dollar value is. So I don't want to presuppose what that'll look like, but that would be part of a subsequent report.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Looking in your report here, I see that some of the municipalities that have implemented the soft levies included Edmonton, Calgary, Chestermere, Cochrane, and High River. Given what I've seen in those communities, would you say those communities seem to be growing just fine with some soft levies in place? So would you say that there really is a correlation between putting these soft levies in place and potentially stifling growth, or would you say that growth seems to come whether these levies are in place or not?
Through the chair, hard to predict, but I think over time, given what funding sources we have and revenue resources we have and how that's changed in the last decade or even 2 decades, it's becoming harder and harder to fund those facilities. Mm-hmm. And I think that over time, most municipalities will have some type of soft levies within their levy structure. I just think we need to be mindful of what our development community can accommodate and withstand, and they have to be partners in this, quite frankly. So absolutely. I think if we keep that in mind, I think we'll be in good stead.
Thank you. And then just my second question is, do you think that there would be any impact on housing prices? Do you think if we impose soft levies, are we driving up the prices of homes in town and really just passing along the costs and having an impact on one of the things we've all talked about is the affordability of living in the town? Could this be passed along and negatively impact that?
So again, through the chair, I think that's something we have to be mindful of, and often developers will, when they talk to you, they will suggest that can negatively impact affordability. So again, in engaging with those stakeholders with the development industry, I think we need to be mindful of the degree to which that is true. It's sometimes hard to determine, but I think if we're kind of moving along in step with our development community, I think we can bring something forward that's a balanced approach.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. Any other questions for Mr. Dugdale? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, from home. Sorry, I wasn't quick enough on the button.
Deputy Mayor?
I do have a few still. Sorry, you guys thought you were done, and I still have a couple more. One concern I have that's been mentioned to me is the possibility of levies backfiring and resulting in more satellite communities around Strathmore. So, for example, Lakes of Muirfield, Nameka, Speargrass, Standard, and etc. Is that also something we would be mindful of?
Through the chair, as I mentioned previously, I think we'd have to be mindful of where we sit in terms of our market, in terms of developers. I do think that in terms of developments that are in the county, it's a bit of apples and oranges. You know, they offer a different lifestyle and all the different amenities or lack thereof. So I think we keep that all in mind in terms of when we develop our approach.
Yeah, we for sure will have to. I've got MLS listings in front of me, and it seems to me like our new homes being built in the new neighborhoods versus pre-owned homes are starting to, the new homes prices are starting to creep up quite significantly. And that does make me a little nervous on behalf of the developers. I think typically you want to be able to see new home prices and pre-owned prices fairly similar, because new homes, of course, still need basements finished, fences, landscaping, so on and so forth. Whereas pre-owned homes, those things are finished, but of course, they're older. So I think in an ideal situation, those two prices should be similar. But in our situation, we're already seeing new homes starting to creep up. And I'm afraid that soft levies would exacerbate that even further. I guess the question is what do you think about that?
Through the chair, I mean, it's a good point to raise, and again, something we'll consider. There's a lot of components that go into costs of housing, and I won't even pretend to be able to go into that in this presentation. That being said, we can go into that in more detail when we come back again. And again, the question always that you can ask developers is how much profit are they taking out of that as well? But again, not a question I'm going to answer. But we just have to balance all those components and make sure we're staying competitive. I think the other thing we can keep in mind is other policies we can use to influence the choices of housing that are provided as well, that influence price.
All right, my final question then. So it sounds to me like a lot of this needs to be discussed in the future as we sort of narrow down what our strategy is, what kind of growth we're comfortable with. But the final question is, are we getting things out of order here? So should we be doing our municipal development plan first? It seems to me we should certainly be doing council's strategic plan first, and then maybe soft levies is something that could be further down the road. Or would administration recommend that this really is the next thing that we ought to be focusing on?
Through the chair, there is some municipal development plan amendments that we are working on and planning as we speak. I expect they will actually come before council before any offset levy changes, just based on the work, the pre-work we'd have to do to develop soft levies if council wants to go that direction. So I guess the answer is we're working on some MDP amendments that will influence and bring us to a better way to manage growth. So that is coming before council, and it'll likely be before any offset levy changes.
And just so I have this clear, administration would then like to see council move forward to this. Like, this is the recommendation of administration, is that soft levies is something that we should be looking at seriously.
Actually, through the chair, we just want council to be aware of it's an option. We really don't have a recommendation tonight. We just want to hear what council's thoughts are and decide on next steps from there.
Well, my preference, and this is directed to the rest of council then, my preference is we actually wait until after our strategic plan to visit this. I think in our strategic plan, I'd like to be talking about things like, what is our growth goal? Like, I think we would all like to see growth mitigated and controlled to keep the small town charm, but none of us, I don't believe any of us think growth should be zero. So what is our current growth? What are we comfortable with? What are the other satellites charging in offsite levies? What is their growth? Try and find some comparables there. I would really like to have our strategic planning before we need to be talking about in that, like, what's the right balance between taxing future versus current residents. Strathmore is not the same as the other satellite communities around Calgary, so we do need to be a lot more mindful of growth. I'm going to guess our growth right now it could even be as little as under 2%. I'm not sure. By bringing in more soft levies, are we stifling even more? what's a healthy growth? Like, these are all decisions that I think our current council needs to have, or at least discussions we need to have in our strategic planning before we should be directing our administration to look into soft levies either further. And let's keep in mind that we have been told by our administration there's a lot of other strains on their resources right now. So my preference would be to wait on this. Wait on this is my preference. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Question for CAO Scoble. In the scope of a strategic planning retreat, is there opportunities for the philosophy of soft levies? Can that be discussed as far as a council's approach for the next 4 years, or is that getting into the weeds and getting too specific?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the prerogative of council to discuss whatever it wants. I mean, offsite levies is more of a topical thing or more of a how. I mean, the council discussion is more of the what, and what Councillor Wiley was talking about is, what sort of growth, how much growth at what rate, and what types of growth does the council want to see for the community, right? So it would be more, that's the what, and then depending on what the what is defined as by council, then administration would be looking at the how, and whether soft levies is a tool, a means of delivering on the how. I hope that provides the clarification you're seeking there.
Yeah, both of you make a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you.
If I may follow up though, just with that.
Sure.
Sorry. Are you sure, Councillor Langmaid? Is that all right? Just as a follow-up then, let me clarify. So at our strategic plan, and I think maybe I'm quoting a Councillor Chisholm here, is I think we need a vision. And so what is our council's vision of this town? What is a growth rate that's compatible with that vision? I think we have a 4-year term to really have a vision, direct our administration toward the vision. And I think, as our CAO just said, soft levies is just one of the many tools that our administration has in the toolbox to help us achieve the vision and the growth that we're kind of picturing. And so again, I'd want to just wait until we have a vision in place before we direct our administration towards working on this one small tool. We need a 10,000-foot view before we can zoom in on one of these specific things.
Thank you. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't disagree with Councillor Wiley, but I would like to see work recognizing how long it would take to get this work done, to do the the engagement with the stakeholders, the research that needs to be done, the math, the background, all of the magic that you make work behind the scenes. I feel comfortable giving some direction to get working on this, understanding that as we work on our strategic plan, that will help inform that work as it moves forward. The vision that council brings forward will be incorporated into that plan and be made into reality in how the soft levies come back to council. I do see, we started talking about soft levies very briefly in the last term, and I do see them as part of the future of Strathmore, because we do need multiple ways to finance the facilities that we're going to need for our community as it grows. How that balances out, I don't know. There is a balance there, as you said, Director Dugdale. There's some balancing work to do between who pays for what and how much. But I think now is a good time to get started on this, and I would prefer to see it start moving forward at a pace that works for administration. But I'm not sure that holding off on it is. I think we're just delaying the inevitable in that this is something we will need to look at, and I'd like to look at it sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Yes, thank you. Some very interesting points of view on when this should be sequenced. I believe that yes, levies are something that we will have to look at it. They may be the future. We need to determine whether or not they're going to be prohibitive to development, because we don't want to curtail development clearly. But if I don't believe there's an imperative to I mean, the strategic planning is coming up very soon, and I don't feel that there's an imperative to sort of get this through the door immediately. That is my own point of view, and obviously we're not voting on any motions at this stage, but I don't believe that there's an imperative to get this through the door at this moment. I believe that I support what, again, what both councilors are saying. I believe that you need to do some research and bring some information back to us, and if that work is starting now, fine, that's okay, but I would say that any decision regarding levies should wait until the strategic planning is being performed. That's all I would ask.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Langmaid.
I'm sorry, just as a point of clarification here. When we're talking about waiting until the strategic planning is complete, our strategic planning is in 10 days. We're not talking about delaying this by months or really delaying this by a year or some far out distance. We're talking about a delay of 10 days until we do our strategic planning. So we're not really holding off on much by waiting, by saying we're going to wait, the 10 days. I'm not sure why we wouldn't, if the strategic plan in any case is going to inform this work that's being done, and I know it will because the strategic plan informs all work that's done by administration. I'm a little confused on why we are focused on telling you to wait 10 days. It seems just a little bit, we're getting very specific on the timeline, and you can't finish it until you have the strategic plan anyways, because that informs your work. So I'm not sure why we're very focused on delaying until these 10 days until the strategic plan, when really that's going to be in the schedule anyways, and it's 10 days.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, so as I suggested, actually, you're not wrong, actually. What I'm suggesting, again, this is just my point of view, and other councillors can please speak up. And so this is my point of view, is that, yes, we can start the legwork to sort of figure out what levies look like, start engaging, stakeholders, what have you. I would just, as I suggested, we should wait till strategic planning is finished and finalized before we make any decisions on levies. That's all I indicated.
Thank you. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you very much. I just follow CA Scoville. The council is what, our administration is how it gets done, and the strategic plan is going to say a lot about what. The leadership team and the administration is going to go back and do the how, and soft levies will be part of that. So I think we're all aligned. I don't know that we need to. You'll do that if it's part of our structure that we're going to get it part of our decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you, Director Dugdale. We move now to item 7.2, 2026 Supplementary Assessment Bylaw number 26-03. Good evening, Mr. Brawley.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My next two items that I'll be speaking on here are just more for Council's information before we're bringing them back for bylaw readings at next Council's meeting. They're both relatively administrative in nature, so this will give Council a chance to ask any questions, get background before we bring them forward, requesting 3 readings at the next Council meeting. So 7.2 is the Supplementary Assessment Bylaw, and this is just a Municipal Government Act required bylaw that we have to have in place that allows us to tax any improvements to a property during the 2026 year. If we don't have it passed in place, if a house were to get completed, renovations, we wouldn't be able to assess and tax those and earn revenue on them. So it is a pretty straightforward slam dunk, you can kind of call it. And it just kind of functions that assessment is based on a market value as of June 30th, 2025, and the condition of the property at December 31st of 2025. Any additions, any improvements, so say, for example, a new home gets built, it's a piece of land at December 31st of 2025, but then the building is completed and the house is made in 2026, we can then tax that because of this assessment, supplemental assessment bylaw. So that's really all it is. Then we'll bring it back for 3 readings at the next council meeting, but I did want to let council know and give you a chance if you had any questions for me on it.
Any questions for Mr. Brawley? Councillor Brown.
you knew I was going to ask a question. I ask lots of questions. I guess the question I would have, so the supplemental assessment is, as you described it, please just nod if I'm getting this correctly, because I'm not familiar with it, is that if you have a permit and you go and you build something, and before it's tax time or just before tax time, you've completed the work, and now you want to make sure or make certain that someone has gone and looked at the work that's being done, and you reassess the value of the property for tax purposes. That's correct, right?
Yeah, correct. Just noting though, that's not constrained to being before tax time. It can happen anytime during the year. The tax bylaw gets passed in May. Taxes are due June 30th, but it can happen anytime during the year, the supplemental assessment process.
So I guess the follow-up question would be then, if a reassessment, so the work was, let's say, completed in September or November, does that mean that someone who's completed the work would pay a prorated version of their taxes based on how many more months are left in the year, something along those lines?
It wouldn't be prorated. It's still on the year basis and still on the same mill rates, but it's based on the changes in assessed value due to those additions, if that makes sense. It wouldn't be a 2 out of 12 months of the year kind of thing, I don't believe.
So they would retroactively owe for the whole year even though they completed their work at the end of the year?
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any further questions? Councillor Chisholm?
I know you're going to help me understanding. When I'm reading the presentation, the town of Strathmore has been assessing improvements for more than a decade in the presentation. So each year when a new supplementary assessment bylaw is passed, we are required to repeal the previous year's supplementary assessment bylaw.
Yeah, correct. It's just an administrative matter. So this exact same bylaw was passed by the previous council at January 2025 approximately, and that one will automatically get replaced by this one. So the exact same wording just replaces 2026 with 2025. I believe it's a Municipal Government Act requirement that it's passed every year by May 1st, I believe. So just administrative, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Okay, forgive me for asking. Again, this is an information session, and so what I'm just wondering aloud, again, I'm trying to be fair to the taxpayer and the person that has done the reno, and so if a reno were to have happened, let's say, and it completed on December, I don't know, 31st, I'm just joking, not that late, but later on in the year, and that person suddenly owes all of the year's taxes, is there a possibility that you would be willing to look into crafting some verbiage that would prorate it based on the completion date? I just don't feel that it would be 100% fair to the person that if they completed it way in November, they owe the taxes for the whole year. It just seems, I don't know, too much.
Yeah, through the chair, I can bring back some additional information when we bring it back to next week for the readings as well. Please do keep in mind these are from the Municipal Government Act as well as the assessment acts that we are required to fall under. I believe our assessors are also going to be presenting in the springtime to council as well, so there will be a little more information as well.
Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, Worship. Riley, if you could just maybe help me understand in my brain, when you pay your property taxes, you are not paying for the previous year. You are paying your property taxes ahead of time for the next year, correct?
Correct. So the tax bylaw that goes out in May is for 2026. So council passed the 2026 budget in late November this year with which included the property taxes we needed to raise to provide services to residents and businesses. So the bylaw that goes out June 30th is for the 2026 tax year. So you're kind of, if you pay June 30th, they're kind of paying for what's already happened in 26 and what will happen the rest of 26 kind of thing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so so if the supplementary assessment happens before the next tax thing, they're not really paying, well, except for they're not really paying for time that they didn't use. They're paying ahead for the next year, and that's how I see it in my head. So we're not really being unfair to the taxpayer. We're just making sure that their taxes are being assessed
Kara, do you want to
for
jump in?
the appropriate amount for that appropriate year.
So please forgive me, I'm not an assessor, that's the first thing I'm going to say. But based on my review of the proposed bylaw that is attached, if I can draw your attention to section 3.2 sub C of the bylaw, this is the assessor shall prepare supplementary assessments in the same manner as the assessments are prepared under Part 9, Division 1 of the Act, prorated to reflect only the number of months during which the improvement is complete, occupied, located in the town, or in operation, including the whole of the first month in which the improvement was completed, was occupied, moved into the town, or became operable. So I think what Riley is saying is that whole month is completed, but I think to your question, it is prorated and it is captured in the bylaw.
May I just say to that? Awesome.
That makes sense. Thank you. I got it all twisted in my mind thinking about dates and timelines and got very confusing. That clears it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Deputy Mayor Wiley?
No, Director Rusk helped me understand.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I guess you can go on to the next one, Mr. Brawley.
Thank you. This one's even less exciting, so bear with me on this one. The line of credit borrowing bylaw is another administrative one that comes back every year, automatic repeal of the previous year one. From the Municipal Government Act, if the town were to borrow to fund operating expenditures, there has to be a bylaw in place for us to do so. We bring it at the start of the year just in the very unlikely chance that we do need to go into a line of credit to support operations of the town. We haven't gone into a line of credit in 5 years, could be more, but it hasn't been 5 years as far as I know. So it's just a routine matter. We want to get it in place in the very unlikely event we need to use it. We do have existing credit facilities with our Scotiabank, and this is just kind of, we send the bylaw to them, it just gets on file kind of thing. The line of credit amount we put forward is $770,000 in addition to a $230,000 revolving credit card line of credit. So it's $1 million total. And there's also an agreement that we'll recommend council authorizes mayor and CAO to sign that we send to the bank for them to keep on their records as well. So same deal, we'll bring it back next week asking for all 3 readings. I just wanted to give council a heads up on it, a chance to ask any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Brown?
Don't loathe me tonight. Again, we're dealing with Scotiabank. Don't want to rock the boat or anything. I'm just curious to know, in your presentation, are you able to, like for the next meeting, are you able to provide some context around the interest rates that we'd be paying on this line of credit, even though we're not using it at the moment?
For sure.
That'd be nice to know.
No, the amount, the rate is prime minus 0.75%, so that's 3.7% effective rate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Chisholm?
Thanks, Riley. And it is exciting being a retired banker. There you go. Could you give just a little background about our best practices so that, I guess for our audiences that might be listening or hear this, what our best practices are for ensuring that we get the best possible pricing and for our facilities?
Yeah, for the facility, like we said, we haven't used it for quite a while. We did just recently go out RFP for our banking services and engage them, and we did stick with Scotiabank on that. So that does kind of make sure that we are still getting the best rates. We still do ask around. We do have existing relationships with other lenders for some of our long-term debts and things like that. So there's still that shopping and best practice, I would say. Like I said, we don't intend on going into debt for operating kind of thing, but I hope that answers your question. There is a due diligence side of it for sure.
Thank you, Riley. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentations tonight. We move now to item 8, question and answer period. Do any councillors have any questions for fellow councillors, or do you wish to make any statements? Councillor Brown?
No.
Thank you. And that moves us to the very end. So I'll adjourn the meeting at 9 p.m.